Yes, we are. 3:31. Happy Monday. Give y'all a few minutes to get in the building. And then we're going to get into chapters 19 and 20, I do believe, today. Hi, Chrisette. How are you today? I'm gonna give it a few more minutes. I know usually I'll be stumbling here. Stumbling in here at this time. They probably like, well, oh, time. I can't believe we're almost done. I'm so grateful and appreciative of y'all who stuck with me since February, offering this pilot class for free through the Candray Institute LLC in honor of Human Talk, that trend that we saw come out on TikTok of Black women offering free education to our community to help uplift the ladies around us. And I thought too, with March with Women History Month being right behind it, it was too perfect. So I know I say it a lot, but I'm very grateful to y'all. All right. I need to clear all these. You just finished doing the surgery. What you talking about, friend? What you talking about? Also, Chris said, drop for me what chapter of the HSPA manual you're on. Oh, the survey. Okay. I'm like, what surgery, friend? What's going on? I didn't know you was having surgery. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you jumping on that right away. This is going to be a big help to me. So I don't know if I've talked about it in the class, but I started the LLC last year. It's been something that I've been working on since 2018, but I finally got the business portion of it set up last year. And then I've been working with the Small Business Development Center in my town on producing it. And so I'm in what they call a business accelerator class. Are you on 15? Okay. And we got a few sessions left for the business accelerator class. But one of the final things that we have to do is make a 10-minute pitch of our business to investors. And if they select us, we have opportunities to win some seed money. So when I saw what information they're requesting for the pitch, I thought it was a good idea for me to get some feedback from you guys while I still have you on how the course went for you, what you feel like could be added, what needs to be changed, how it went, what value you saw in it, all that good stuff, and potentially I might share some of that information with the business investors that we'll be pitching to. So if I do, I'll definitely let you know that because I would like for you guys to see it as well because, again, you guys have been foundational to getting this course up and off the ground. So I want to share the success of the Candray LLC with you as you guys start to wrap up because we are on chapter 19 of 24. So we only have a few more sessions left together. My intention is to keep this information available to you guys as long as you need it since you completed this course. So I may take those live classes down and put them into a shareable link that you guys will have so you can finish up because I know not everybody is on chapter 19. And I also want to support you through getting your externships secured and getting your testing done if that's what you want to do. If you want to truly become a certified CRCST. So I'm excited. Yes, yes, it truly is my pleasure. I could go on and on and on about why it really is a blessing to me to be a blessing to you. But the long and the short of it is sterile processing changed my life. Learning how to do this work gave me opportunities that I would not have otherwise had access to. And so, from my perspective, the least I can do is to help other people if they want to utilize it too. I don't think it's a career like any career. It's not some magical job where you just go in there and everything is perfect all the time. It's work like work is work. But having that skill set, something that I could take from city to city, it really opened up a lot of doors for me. And professionally, I would say, truly, like when I moved out of the tech space, I was a technician for 5 years, and I became a supervisor when I was 25, I think. I think I was 25. So, shifting over into leadership, even that was such a major change. That meant moving states. Meant moving income brackets. That meant I had to learn how to manage money I had never seen before, child. I had to learn how to travel in ways I never learned how to travel. So having an open mind and wanting to learn, I think, has made me very much appreciative of when people want to open up and teach. So I thank you for recognizing that in me. Yeah. All right. So look, without further ado, let's get into it because it might be just me and you today. I'm hoping that we don't lose folks the closer we get to the end, but I know the truth of the matter is not everybody's gonna finish. That's between them and them. But y'all have the information, and like I said, I want to make sure that it's available to y'all as long as y'all need it, so that you can go ahead and take your exams. All right. So speaking of, let's get into today. We are going to be going over chapters 19 and 20. And then, like I said, there's only 24 chapters left in this book. We've moved through everything that is technical as far as the how to's of cleaning and sterilizing surgical instrumentation, storing surgical instrumentation, transporting it, right? We've looked at all of these facets of asset management. And so now what we're getting into in the last couple of chapters of the book is things like how do we keep track of all this stuff that we have in this department, because you guys will quickly see, if you're not already in the field, that at any given point you could be talking about hundreds of trays, thousands of surgical instruments that you're going to be responsible for keeping track of, right? So towards the end of this book, we're looking at how do we manage inventory. Also, then in chapter 20, we'll be looking at the role of central service and ancillary department support. That's a big word salad to say. What is sterile processing's responsibility to outside departments? Because we don't do surgery in sterile processing, we just get instruments ready for surgery in sterile processing. So how do we do with all of these, what we call ancillary or outside departments? And then chapter 21, we'll be looking at the role of information technology in SPD. And specifically when we get into the IT side, what I really want you guys to pay attention to is all of the asset management systems you might see in other jobs, right? So, like, say, for instance, when you go to the grocery store and you see that everything has a barcode and a scanning system to go along with it, you're going to see a lot of that same technology used inside the SPD department. So, I want you to be able to conceptualize the fact that it will sound a little bit weird, but it's not actually foreign to you. And then chapters 22 talks about safety and risk management for central service. A lot of that, just like I said, the terms will start to repeat. A lot of that is going to be a repeat kind of summary of safety in the department, because a lot of this we've already talked about, especially when it comes to keeping you personally safe with your PPE. But we'll be taking a look at things like fire safety, earthquake safety, safety with the equipment, things of that nature. Then chapter 23, we really start to get into the let's say goodbye to this textbook, right? We start talking about what it looks like to have successful communication. One thing I have found in the SPD industry is that with it being an entry level job, right? That's the whole point of my website is this is an entry level position. You can have a high school diploma, and as long as you get this CRCST certification, you have everything that you need to excel from a Tech 1 up into some supervisor positions, even some manager positions in SPD without getting anything additional added onto it. That's before you get to a bachelor's degree. That's before you get to an associate's degree. That's before you get to having even additional certifications like the certified healthcare leader, the certified endoscopy processor, the certified instrument specialist, right? So this is something that you can really take and then build a career with. And one of the things about that is you may be coming from a work environment that isn't as professional as a healthcare environment. Now, I know earlier in the class I said it's a job like it's a job like it's a job, right? It's work like it's work. So I don't want you to think like, oh, you just go in there and everybody has a lab coat and everybody's all hoity-toity and who to do. No, these are still people and they still do people stuff at work, okay? But it's also a professional environment where you're dealing with people on multiple levels, some people with certificates, some people with just a high school diploma, some people all the way through masters and PhDs, right? All the way through doctorate level folks. You have to know how to communicate up and down that scale. So we're going to talk about what it looks like to be successful through your communication, especially when it comes to typed communication. Okay. And then the last chapter of the HSPA manual in my 8th edition, it might be a little different in y'all 9th edition, is personal and professional development for essential service. So we'll get into what it looks like if you guys want to take your career and move up step by step, level by level, okay? Which is always your choice. I know plenty of technicians that have been technicians for 20, 30, 50 years, and they're happy doing what they're doing. I know plenty of managers that have been in the management space for 10, 20, 30 years, and they're happy doing what they're doing. You know, everybody finds their spot and they get in it, all right? So we'll talk about that towards the end of the chapter, what that looks like, and hopefully open up you guys' mind to what it might look like if you want to use this to build a career. Okay, so chapters 19. Before I get into chapter 19, do y'all have any questions for me over anything that we've already covered or where you are with your reading? Anything that stood out to you as confusing? Any terminology that you circled this week and was like, I don't know what that is. I gotta ask Alessandra what's going on with this. I don't want to go past. I saw Chris said you're on chapter 15. Who else just came in? Oh, maybe they're not here with no more. Chapter 15. If not, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And of course, y'all are always welcome to email me in the in-between as well. Okay, so chapter 19. I'm just trying to study for my exam. All right, cool beans. I'm gonna put together some exam, some mock exams for you guys too, so you guys can practice on those. Hopefully, you find a good use of the practice exams that are in that workbook too. Because especially what my favorite thing about that is those were books that are put together by HSPA by the same folks that developed the exam. So those practice tests and quizzes that are in there should really go a long way to helping you get set up for that success outside of just really, like I said, on every class, hammering that vocabulary. If you know that vocabulary, you're going to be just fine on this test. I promise you. All right. Chapter 19, managing inventory within the central service department. Central service is also referred to as sterile processing. I would imagine by the time y'all got to the ninth edition, they should have updated that language, but just FYI, those two things are synonymous. So, chapter objectives, by the end of this chapter, you guys should be able to define what inventory management is and explain its importance in central service. We want to identify different types of inventory systems used in sterile processing, explain inventory control methods, including par level, cycle counts, and stock rotation, which again should not be new information at this point. We want to describe the function of case carts and exchange carts. That is something that we haven't talked about a lot, so I'm really excited to get into that with y'all today. Discuss the role of automated inventory management systems, identify best practices for reducing inventory loss, waste, and stockouts. And lastly, explain regulatory compliance requirements for medical inventory management. Right? Remember, we always gonna look back and see what the regulatory compliance measures are for us. So, introduction to inventory management. The definition and importance of inventory management. So, the definition of inventory management is the process of ordering, tracking, storing, and distributing medical instruments and supplies to ensure patient safety and operational efficiency. Now, here's the thing when it comes to inventory management. Oh no, you all right. You know you're all right. Replay is gonna be up for you. So, and we really just getting started. Um, the thing with this is some SPD departments are still connected to what we call the materials management department. I know I've talked about this before, but materials management is a department that's responsible for what it sounds like, buying all the materials, all of what we call soft goods. So this is the sponges, the basins, all of the needles, the any type of cord that hang off a patient, type of mask, gown, hat, you name it. There's one central department that's responsible for ordering the good majority of that stuff and keeping it on stock and sending it out to the ancillary departments. Now, that being said, in a lot of spaces, SPD or sterile processing and materials management used to be the same department. Like when I started in 2009, my department, it was the same department. So you got trained on how to do sterile processing. And then when you got done with that, they took you downstairs to the where everything was stocked and stored, and you learned how to be a materials tech, which meant that you learned all of, them surgery packs, you know what I'm talking about. All you learned what all that stuff was, and you delivered it out to the department. The same time that I was there, and I think I was there for a total of 6 years, the sterile processing and the materials department started to separate. It's also why you saw a name change for HSPA. Because if you see my old book, it used to be the International Association for Healthcare Central Service, which was sterile processing, and materials management. But it's not like that anymore in the industry. More and more, we're starting to see sterile processing departments and materials management departments split up. So HSPA even so did a name change and because of it. So now it's the Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. They dropped everything to do with materials management. Now, that being said, some departments you'll still go to, they're still connected. They still very much do both jobs. Some materials managers still have certifications from the SPD department because they used to do both, right? And also because we're dealing still with inventory of things that we have to stock and push out, we're going to be using a lot of similar processes to the materials management department. Okay. So I say that just again to open your mind when you guys are looking at jobs. Don't hesitate to start in a materials management position because it's going to teach you a lot of the same information you need to know to be a successful sterile processing tech. There's a lot of roles to get into the hospital. And the beauty of it is once you're in there, it's a lot easier to move around in there than to move in from the outside. Okay, so this is the process of tracking. We gotta keep track of how much of this stuff we ordered, how much of it is on hand. Do we have enough medical instruments available for all the patients that we want to see? That's going to ensure that you're able to operate safely. The importance of this is that it ensures that sterile supplies and instruments are available when they're needed. They also ensure that somebody's communicating when something is not available, just like we have to put on that missing tray. We want to communicate when things are not available. And we want to prevent overstocking and stock outs because all of this stuff is expensive, down to the single solitary instrument. We could be talking about thousands of dollars. So we want to reduce waste and reduce cost inefficiencies. A lot of hospitals will participate in what they call profit sharing. And what that looks like is if they have a surplus of money, if they've made a profit for the year, they will push that back in bonuses for the staff. One of the easiest ways for healthcare staff to increase their profit sharing bonuses is one, to manage their time cards well, and then two, to manage their inventory well. So, what types of inventory systems are we using in the hospital system? We have manual inventory systems, right? That means we're doing it by hand. We still have paper logs that we use to track where things are. We still have paper logs that we use to check and make sure we have a number of things. These are less expensive processes for management, but they are more prone to human error, right? If you don't spend the time to fill it out properly, then the information isn't correct. Then we have automated inventory systems. So barcode scanning and RFID tracking for real-time inventory updates. So this is what I was saying, just because you guys aren't necessarily in the hospital, if you're not in the hospital already, you might not be familiar with some of the automated systems that we use to put barcodes on surgical instruments. But we do it just like the grocery store does it. So just imagine, how they beep and everything. We do the same thing. Some instruments now are even have barcodes that are etched into them from the manufacturer that you can program information into your computer system to recognize it. So what will happen is you will scan that instrument or you will scan that tray set, and it will pull up on the computer the information about that tray. What's supposed to be in it, what's its sterilization parameters, how is it supposed to be washed, where it's supposed to go, what different types of trays it lives inside of, right? Maybe I scanned a Mayo scissor and I need to know where I can find another one. And the computer system will show me that Mayo scissors are kept here, right? So just like a grocery store experience, you have a barcoding of surgical instrumentation. A lot of healthcare systems are using automated systems now because they reduce errors and they improve efficiency as long as everybody's using them, okay? You do have to participate in the scanning. And then we have perpetual inventory systems. So these are used to update stock levels automatically when items are received or used. So this might be something like that has a barcode that actually is keeping track of how many we have in house. So when I scan it and it shows that we have less than 5, it might automatically kick off a new order to restock the hospital system. That's a perpetual inventory system. And the whole process and prone of that is that it allows continuous monitoring of supply levels. We're never out of it because it's monitoring itself and it's getting itself ordered. And all I got to do is open the box and put it back on the shelf. And then the last one we talk about during the textbook is periodic inventory systems. And these are stock levels that are checked at scheduled intervals, right? So this might look like something we might be doing on the floor for ourselves, where we go into our decontam once a week and we check and we go, medium mask, 12 boxes. This is large mask, 10 boxes. Or I'm going through there and I'm taking that list back to my supervisor to order. Or maybe my manager or my supervisor is doing that once a week, right? So those periodic inventory systems are something that's usually set up and shared across teams so that we do the same thing that previous system was doing, the perpetual system is doing, where we always are maintaining stock because we're keeping an eye on how much we have in-house. Okay, inventory control methods. And I hope it goes without saying when it comes to stocking, but why would I want to be managing this inventory, right? Because I don't want to be the one to walk into decontam and go in there and find out we don't got no gowns. Now we can't clean nothing today. And that's not gonna fly with nobody. Now there are processes you can do in emergencies to try to find things. Sometimes we call sister facilities, sometimes we'll call partner facilities, see can we borrow something. But really at the end of the day, you have to have a strong inventory management system so that you are able to operate efficiently. So what are some methods we would do to control our inventory? One of the most common ones we're going to use are par levels. And the definition of a par level is it's the minimum quantity of a supply that must be maintained, right? So maybe it's my gowns and I say at a minimum, I must always have 1 case of gowns here. If I drop down less than a case, then we need to order something. We need to order something stacked. Okay, so a par level is going to give you the minimum quality. This is used to prevent shortages and avoid excessive restock, where you just ordering that he got 12 cases of gowns that's going to take me 10 months to get through, right? Because you done ordered and lost your mind. So par levels will give everybody an idea of what we need and what's available to keep on stock. And then, of course, this first in, first out, this shouldn't be new to you, but these terms over here, first expired and first out, might be new to you guys. So first in, first out, that's that older stock is being used before the newer stock, right? I've given so many examples of that, so I'm not going to belabor it. But the first expired, first out is just like it sounds like, right? If I have a storeroom full of things that have expiration dates, when I go into the storeroom, I want to be pulling from the things that are going to expire first. I shouldn't be pulling from, the oldest expired date, and then I got stuff that's just going bad because the newest expired date, and then I got stuff just going bad because the oldest numbers are still in there. So you want to have a system that puts things behind, first in, first out, same kind of concept, but so that you guys are not mixing up lot numbers or mixing up expiration dates. Then we have cycle counting. This is a regular check of specific inventory sections to identify discrepancies. This is something that more than likely you will see being done by a materials management department, where they will come through and periodically just check everything to see how much stuff they have in house, and they want to count that back against what their orders say they should have. The whole point is so that they can identify any areas where they're having major discrepancies in the ordering. They want to look at their processes. And then we have just-in-time inventory. So these are supplies that are ordered only when they're needed to reduce storage costs. A lot of times with just-in-time storage items, they will be things that either have quick expiration dates or maybe need to be refrigerated. Maybe they're too large to store, or they just might not be used that often. So we might order it when we know that we have a case coming up that's going to need it, but we don't keep it on the shelf all the time. So even in that scenario, you will have a process in place so that when that patient is identified, that case is scheduled, those things are being ordered and they're available on time. Issue with this is it can lead to stock shortages if there are supply chain disruptions. And trust me, supply chain disruption happens. Sterile processing and materials management is one of the easiest places to really feel what's going on in the world when it comes to things like tariffs, when it comes to things like blocks, because a lot of the stuff that we order for the American healthcare system comes from other countries. So if there are blockades happening in Jordan, you might not be getting your mask or your gowns as quickly as you were anticipating. So supply shortages can happen, and it's one of the reasons why we generally shy away from just-in-time ordering, but it would be irresponsible for me to act as if we don't have to use just-in-time ordering sometimes. Even from the perspective of, let's say I'm supposed to be doing cycle counting, or let's say I'm supposed to be maintaining a par level, and the person before me didn't check it, and now we were supposed to order when we were down to 5, but we down to 2 and ain't nobody ordered it yet. Guess what I'm getting ready to do? Some just-in-time ordering, okay? All right. So we've taken a look at how we get all these products into the hospital system. Now we're going to talk about case carts and exchange carts. This part of materials management will most definitely affect you all as SPD techs, because as you saw from that video that I posted where the case cart was in decontam and the items were falling out, case carts and exchange carts are going to be the primary way that you all deliver surgical instrumentation to your procedure areas. And remember when I talked about transport between departments, there are a lot of agencies that have rules about how we transport instruments from one place to the other. And a case cart is a very easy way to stay in compliance with almost all of them. Okay, because you're going to put your instruments inside of a metal case, and you're going to close the door on them so they're being protected from the elements. Most case carts these days are also required to have signage on them to let you know if they're clean or dirty. A lot of them now, there's a thing on there where you just slide it back and forth. One side say clean, one side say dirty, right? Because we're going to put the clean instruments in it to store it and send it up to the operating room. And then the operating room is going to use that same case cart to put all of their soiled instruments into, slide it over to soil, and push it back down to the decontam area. Okay? So what is a case cart? A case cart is a specialized cart that contains all instruments and supplies needed for surgery based on the surgeon's preference card. It's been a couple of weeks since we talked about preference cards, But surgical preference cards get printed out for every single patient's surgical procedure. And what they have on them, you can kind of think of them like an IFU for the surgery. A preference card is going to tell everybody on the surgical team what they need, how much of it they need, and when they need to have it. Okay. So every surgical instrument, every piece of gauze, every suture needle, every knife blade is going to be called for on that preference card. And depending on your SPD department, you may be responsible for pulling those soft goods and those instruments. Also, sometimes I've seen it set up where that lives in the operating room, and there's an operating room staff that builds those case cards. I've seen it live in the operating room, and there's an SPD tech that lives in the operating room that builds those case cards. It really just depends on your facility, but you will at some point touch them, either if it's because you're building them, or because you're tearing them down, or because you're doing both. Okay, so what's the flow process of a case cart? It's very similar to the life cycle of a tray. You're going to first assemble the cart. This is going to be based on that preference card, and you're going to ensure that all required instruments and supplies are included. If they're not there, you're going to be communicating that they're not there, same as your tray. You do not want your surgical team to find out because when they're already setting up that they're missing critical things they need. You're going to transport that case card to the operating room. The case card is delivered to the operating room before the procedure begins, hopefully, and that's obvious why they need it before the procedure begins. And then we're going to use it in surgery. So, right. So now y'all gone and the surgical room is using it. They're going to take everything out, make sure that your chemical indicators were there, your biological indicators were tested out. They're going to put everything on the back table and use it. And then when they're done, they're going to put any unused items should be returned to the SPD department. Sometimes they're just returned to certain shelves in the operating room where SPD will come and pick those things up and bring them back to SPD. But rest assured, there'll be some process for that. And then all of the dirty, reusable stuff, whether it got used or not, if it got opened, we call it dirty, and they put it back in that case cart and they send it back down to decontamination for cleaning and reprocessing, okay? Then you guys will do your decontamination, processing, assembly, and storage. We'll build a new case cart, send it back to the OR. Exchange carts. So exchange carts are a little bit different than case carts. They may be also, to make it a little more confusing, exchange carts may be case carts themselves that are built for certain procedures and kept in the OR for emergencies, okay? It wouldn't be at that time referred to as a case cart because it's not being sent up to a particular operating room, but the object itself is inside of a case cart. I hope that's not too confusing. I hope that makes sense. But also some exchange carts are just open shelving, or they're these big, tall rolling carts. I'll try to find some pictures of some for next class. I don't know if they have anything good in the textbook, but yeah, here's one. Here's some examples of what they might look like as well. And I know you guys have your textbook, so you have that. But exchange carts are rotating carts that supply commonly used items in patient care. You may make an exchange cart based on like some common ones are the crash carts. A lot of people are familiar with those, right? So we build crash carts based off of all of the items we know you might need if a patient is coding. And the cart itself is technically an exchange cart. Now, what happens with that crash cart when it gets used is it will get returned either to an SPD or a materials management department. It will be wiped down, right, because it was in a patient room, and then it will be restocked, and it will be brought back to or delivered back to whatever department needs it next, okay? So these are done on a rotating basis. They're stocked with par levels, and they're replenished daily. They're replenished per use. Okay, so we don't just restock a crash cart one time during the day. We restock it every time we use it. Some other examples, we may keep in the operating room surgical carts that are ready for procedures that might get added on, right? So we might keep a cart for a general, a lap appy, a total knee, a C-section, things that we don't know we're going to have to do today, but it could happen. So, and we would rather have everything ready to go and run into the room than to be trying to scramble and pull those things together, right? Hysterectomy, bronchs. So sometimes you'll see exchange carts maintained that way. Some disadvantages of the exchange carts. Sometimes there can be stocking inconsistencies. Items in the exchange carts may not be the same in every single department, leading to potential shortages and excesses. This is something that, if it is the SP department's responsibility, I usually like to see that this gets put under control fairly quickly. To keep them uniform so we're not overbuying stuff. I don't have a whole case of something that only one department is using. But also, just like I said with just in time, sometimes that just it is what it is. That department needs it, nobody else needs it, and we got to keep it on stock. Sometimes with exchange cards, we see limited flexibility. Items can be easily adjusted or modified based on immediate needs, potentially causing delays. I see this usually more in the upper management where people are not communicating what they need in these carts. And so somebody is getting in there and they making adjustments, then they're not talking to folks. That can be really dangerous. So I definitely, when it comes to dealing with ancillary departments, if you're dealing with a surgical set or a case cart or an exchange cart that's going to affect the outside department, I always suggest having that multidisciplinary team so that communication is there. Because again, you don't want to figure that out while your patient needs something and it could have been in there, but I was downstairs thinking, oh, they don't need this. I'm just going to take it out. Then lastly, with these exchange cards, sometimes security concerns are there because replenishing carts regularly can happen without a check, and it may lead to unauthorized removal or loss of supplies. This is also why we don't often keep drugs or medication on these exchange carts, because folks might get a little slick and take some things home or move some things around, and then it's not there for the patient. So a lot of times those type of things will be under lock and key. Sometimes when you have exchange carts, what you guys will see is that each drawer of the cart has a lock to it. So we will have one of those those plastic ones where you push it in, you pull it through, and they don't retract. But they're plastic, so you can still break them when you need them. A lot of times, exchange carts, crash carts will have each level locked for that reason as well. Because even something less insidious than stealing drugs, maybe the nurse just didn't want to walk 5 more feet to the supply closet. So she opened up the drawer of the cart that she knew had the needles in it she needed, and she took them. Might not be thinking that, okay, later on, we're going to be using this crash cart, and now we're going through there. We're thinking that this stuff is here, but it's not in there because we already did the inventory and we said it was restocked, right? So that's another reason why oftentimes you'll see hospital systems will lock those drawers, but it can become a security concern. Okay, so now we've looked at places where we store these items at. Let's talk about what stat orders are and what their impact on inventory. So y'all done watch enough medical TV. Y'all done heard when the people start screaming, stat, right? It means right now. That is no different inside the hospital than outside the hospital. If somebody tells you that they need something stat, they need it as soon as humanly possible. And this is going to come up for you guys in the sterile processing department a lot because of that turnover. We've talked about it quite a few times, where you will be processing surgical instruments at the beginning of the day or throughout the day because you need them to be returned for later times on the case schedule, okay? So it's going to happen. Operating room is going to call you and they're going to say, excuse me, SPD, I need a major tray stat room 9, and they're gone. Okay, they're expected for you to finish that loop on that communication. And the reason why I'm belaboring this with y'all in particular is I want you to never, ever, ever be afraid to communicate in the operating room. I'm not saying you're not going to ever get pushback. I'm not saying nobody ever going to roll their eyes at you for asking a stupid question or whatever the case may be. But I want you to be in the habit of asking questions and communicating, because what you don't say could get a person killed. What you don't say could allow a patient to bleed out. Okay, there's no time for that level of insecurity inside the operating room. Okay, so like maybe I got that call and that nurse hung up so fast, I don't really know what she asked me for. That's okay. I'm gonna call the front desk and I'm gonna say, hello, this is Alexandra down at SPD. I just got a call from room 12. They were calling for instrumentation. They said they needed stat, but I didn't understand what's the tray sheet. Can you please connect? Okay, because if you just walk off and go, oh well, they're gonna call back. They might, but by the time they do, they're gonna be pissed. Okay, and let me tell you something about the operating room. They are never afraid to share that they are upset or angry. All right. So it's better to get in the habit of communicating. When they say stat order, they mean emergency, they mean urgent request for supplies. The impact on inventory is that this might disrupt your regular inventory of stuff, right? Whether it's your trays, like for instance, if we utilize this example we've been using about total needs, the hospital had 5 total needs on the schedule today, but we only have instruments in-house for 3 of them. That means these 2 patients are waiting on these 3 patients to be finished with their surgical instruments. When case number 1 comes out of the room and makes it to decontam, I'm technically on a stat order to turn over for case number 4. They're not going to be waiting for me. They're going to be expecting for me to have case number 1's instruments ready and turned over for case number 4. The same way case number 5 is going to be waiting for me to turn over instrumentation from case number 2. Now, let's throw a monkey wrench in. They finished case number 1. They inside case number 2. They haven't started case number 3 yet. Case number 2 calls you and they say, hey, that total need tray that was inside my case card is dirty. I need another one now. Stat. You go, case number 3 hasn't started yet, so maybe you pull case number 3's total need tray, put it in case number 2. Now what? Now I have to turn over case number 1 for case number 4, turn over case number 2 for case number 5, but I also now have to turn over a total need tray from case number 1 or case number 2 to get me back to case number 3. So you can see how very easily my day just got super chaotic, and it's only 10 a.m. I cannot belabor to you how normal that is in a surgical department. Okay, so I don't say it to scare you, like, oh, it's just total chaos in the SP department, but it is going to require you to stay on top of what's going on, stay on top of the management of your inventory. When people start calling for stat information or stat things to happen, or maybe you left the chemical indicator out and now all them trays we thought we had, we got to do something else, okay? Because all of that can disrupt your regular inventory. It also requires special handling to ensure that the requested supplies are available for urgent use. Because you guys remember, we have a regular process on how we get instruments from dirty to clean. But sometimes because of these stat orders, we might have to rush that. We might have to do immediate use steam sterilization. We might have to skip our automated washer and only do manual washing. We may have to put processes in place that are not the best practice, but that get us to the fastest result because of these inventory problems we have in our department, okay? So it's another reason why I say it's very, very important for you guys to be open and communicating, letting your managers know, hey, we are down to the last met scissor, or, I'm frequently getting called every day to turn over these tonsil trays. It seems like maybe we might need a few more. They may not buy them. Okay, they may never get them, and for the rest of your life, you'll be turning over that tonsil tray. But it's better to communicate, because I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, that helps your patient. It's nice when we can get things turned over fast, but you don't want to have that be a standard practice in your department. Okay, and the last thing about these stat orders, as far as a negative, is sometimes it necessitates expedited reordering and special storage to accommodate the emergency request. That's not necessarily a problem, but the issue with expedited ordering is just like if you want to expedite ordering at your house, it's more expensive. When you pay that rate to ship it, if you tell them that you want it faster in the healthcare system, they charge them more too, right? So it's just another space where you might not be being the best stewards of your resources. But again, if your patients need it, then it is what we got to do. We got to do. All right. So we've talked about what type of methods we can use to manage our inventory. We've talked about some of the places we might store our inventory. We've even talked about definitions of what it is when people need our inventory from us quickly in the stat order. But let's talk about what is your role in ensuring that you have what you need inside of your department. And mind you, I know I'm repeating this, but it will be different for every single sterile processing department. Some of these departments, you guys will never be responsible for checking on inventory. That will be somebody else's job. And in other SP departments, it will be a part of your weekly or daily duties that you're doing some type of stock or reorder list, okay? So ensuring stock levels. Central Service is responsible for ensuring that all inventory is properly stocked with sufficient supplies for ongoing patient care and surgical needs. That might be just for your sterile processing department. That might be for your department and storerooms outside and ancillary spaces. It really just depends. Tracking inventory. You guys are going to be responsible for inventory that is tracked through requisition systems to monitor usage, manage par levels, and identify potential shortages or supply or surpluses, excuse me. And that again, be more so if you're on that materials management side. And a requisition system is just that computer system or that barcode system we were talking about, where my all of my inventory is built into the computer, and when I get ready to order things, I go into the computer to place orders with my companies. As I like to tell my surgeons all the time, there is no Walmart for surgical instruments. So when they be calling me talking about, Alessandra, I need X, Y, and Z, you can send me that email as passionately as you want to, Doc. I can't make them ship that thing out no faster. It's coming all the way from Timbuktu, okay? So it's another reason why, again, we have to get real good at managing what we have. Preventing waste and shortages, you're going to do that by maintaining effective inventory systems. Central Service helps to prevent both overstocking, which is waste space and resources, and y'all will quickly find we are very limited on space. I don't care what hospital you're in. And it also prevents stock outs where I don't have what they need, and now we can't do that procedure until we get more supplies in stock. And then lastly, best practices. We want regular inventory audits and monitoring of trends so that we can see the supply usage. And effective communication with departments are essential for maintaining smooth hospital operations. We got to communicate. We have to communicate. It's one of the reasons why that's a whole chapter coming up. You can't be that person, that don't want to talk to nobody, don't want to go out your way to make the phone call, don't want to go out your way to send the email, the text message, or whatever it is. It's going to shoot you on the foot in SPD. All right. So definition of inventory and types of supplies. Inventory is anything that you guys are stocking. That could be medical supplies, equipment, instruments. Anything that you guys are keeping inside of the healthcare facility is considered inventory. So especially like I know I've talked about, we have our surgical instruments that are inventory. So like you might have a wall of instruments that's just there as back stock, so that if you get a tray and you're missing something, you can go and pull one and put it in there. But you'll also have an inventory of trays that are made up of these packs already ready to go, right? So any and all of that is considered inventory. Inventory can be reusable or consumable. We've talked about that quite a bit. Obviously, your surgical instruments that you guys are getting trained on how to clean are reusable, but there's also what we call consumable products, where I use it one time and I throw it away. You will see that not only in the patient care side, but you will also see that in you guys' trays. Some of your surgical trays will have implants or screws or plates that once this gets pulled out and used on a patient, somebody has to restock that in order for it to be used on the next patient. And then specifically, another type of inventory is what we call capital equipment or assets. And all that capital equipment means is that it's something that you have that's high cost. So a piece of capital equipment might be one of the sterilizers. Sterilizer costs $100,000. That's a piece of capital equipment. I might keep a lot of inventory, right? Maybe I keep for my sterilizer, I keep filters and I keep locks and I keep PCD packs, and all of those are accessories that go along with that capital equipment, but they aren't capital themselves, right? So these are going to be high cost, long-term assets, such as surgical machines, sterilizers, and operating room lights. These are things that usually we expect to buy them once and we repair them. We don't expect to buy them, daily or weekly. They're not to be consumed of or disposed of after use, but they require periodic maintenance. A lot of capital equipment will also be sold with a equipment package or a maintenance package, so that sometimes you'll hear it called preventative maintenance package, so that somebody from that manufacturer is coming in on a periodic basis, whether it's every 6 months, every once a year, it could be anything, quarterly, and they're coming in and they're making assessments and repairs to that instrumentation. And then assets, these are both tangible and intangible items that the hospital owns, including equipment, tools, and infrastructure. Assets could also be something like branding. A lot of times you guys will be, if you're driving down the highway, you'll see these surgeons and they'll have their face up on the billboard, right? Part of that is an asset to them. They're utilizing that to make sales. It's a part of how we make our money. All right. The difference between operational supplies and patient care supplies. This really should be a no-brainer, but I would suggest potentially creating a flashcard for this. But operational supplies, these are supplies that are necessary for general operation of the hospital, but are not directly involved in patient care, okay? This is the paper that you need for your printouts. This is the computer paper that you need to print off your set list. This is the hand sanitizer you're using, right? These are things that are not necessarily directly involved in patient care, but that you need in order to maintain a safe patient care environment. And then patient care supplies themselves are supplies directly used in the treatment or diagnosis or care of a patient, right? So surgical instruments, surgical drapes, medical devices, implants, things that are going to go smack dab right onto the patient will be considered direct medical care for them. And then the flow of materials within the hospital system is very similar to the flow of that life cycle of your tray. You're going to have a space, usually in the materials department, where things are received. And a lot of times with the SPD department, we also may have a room where the materials department comes to our department to drop things off in that room, and then they unpackage stuff and bring it in. Because one of the big things about the SP department, obviously you guys know that at this point, we in chapter 19, y'all know we got to keep it clean. We cannot be bringing stuff in from all hell outside, okay? So cardboard is a big no-no inside of an SP department. Why? That cardboard has been on every shelf, every train, every plane, every truck. It itself is a paper material that can harbor bugs and bacteria. We're not bringing that into the SB department. We're unpackaging that in what we sometimes call a breakout room, and then we're delivering that to the SPD department. So usually the materials or the SPD will have some type of receiving area where medical supplies and instruments are delivered and inspected for quality and quantity. They're taken out of their dirty packaging, and then they're brought over to storage, okay? Then we're going to store those supplies. Then we're going to make sure that they're properly stored, just like for SPD when we were talking about how your storage supply rooms have to have proper humidity, proper air exchanges, proper temp. It's no different in these material storage areas. Distribution. Materials are distributed to various hospital departments as needed, following inventory systems and requisition protocols. Big fancy words to say. From the materials storeroom, things are going to be delivered based on how we require them or how we request them. If that's because we do a weekly checkup and we give them a paper and they bring it to us, that's our requisition system. If that's because we call them when we're out of stuff, that's our requisition system. So whatever kicks that off, materials are going to be distributed to that ancillary department. And then the last thing is going to be return. You're going to return any unused or surplus items that are going to be returned to the inventory of their original stock, right? So if I got a whole bunch of overflow gloves in my department, I done filled up every box that SPD can hold, I cannot just take that stuff and put it in the corner because I know I'm going to use it later. I need to return it to materials, and I'll call them through my requisition system, or I'll put my order in on the computer through my requisition system to get more when I need it. Hold on, y'all. How much more of this do I got? Okay. I want to make sure I don't go into 20 before we wrap up. Okay, so handling of commercially sterilized materials and packaging is not very different from handling anything that you guys were already dealing with inside of the SPD department, because just like you're buying a sterile package, you guys are making a sterile package, so all the same rules apply. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to inspect it with my own manual eyes and make sure it doesn't have any damage. It doesn't have no big holes in the package. It doesn't have no spots in it. I don't see no bugs on it. I don't see things that don't make sense. I'm looking at it and it looks good. It looks like it's free of contamination and it's got proper sealing. It's good to go. I'm also checking the expiration dates. There's no sense in me delivering a bunch of products to a department that have expired. So I'm checking the expiration dates and making sure that everything is kosher. And then storage. I'm not delivering items out of a storeroom that are not in compliance, right? So if my storeroom was out of temperature too long, out of humidity range too long, the HVAC system has went down and we're not getting any air exchanges in this room, guess what? Everything in there now cannot be used. So you're going to be checking and making sure that the storeroom conditions and parameters have been met. Things are clear. They're dry. I don't see big water puddles on my packages. And I know it sounds crazy, but it happens. The one that comes to my mind, particularly right now, I had just became a supervisor, y'all. I've been a sterile processing tech for 5 years. My department was doing both materials and surgical instruments. I was working on the evening shift. My managers had gone home. We pushed some case carts into the case cart washer, opened it up on the clean side, and the exhaust from the steam was so hot that it tripped the fire extinguisher system in the SPD department. Now imagine I'm in this processing side where I have everything that we have sterilized and we're getting ready to deliver to the OR. And now I have water falling down from the ceiling. Can I use any of that instrumentation now? Absolutely not. Right? I cannot deliver it anywhere. And I have to get it all reprocessed, right? So things happen. Sometimes you come into a storeroom and you realize it's been out of range. Now we got a whole new game on our hands. So you want to keep that in mind. And then as far as the distribution of supplies, this is kind of redundant, so I'm gonna skip over this, but it's really just saying the same thing. The only real difference here is the fact that that stock has now been delivered to a location. But we're gonna be doing the same thing. We receive it, we have to make sure to store it properly. We're gonna take what we need from it or distribute it as we need, and we're gonna rotate that stock first in, first out. First expiration dates also out. All right, I'm skipping automatic replenishment because we talked about it already. And then I'm going to get into the Chapter 19 review questions. So hopefully y'all still with me. All right, so for Chapter 19, the first question I have up there is, what is the primary purpose of a case cart system? Is it A, to provide supplies for multiple departments, B, to contain all instruments and stock supplies needed for surgery, C, to rotate inventory stock, or D, none of the above? What's the purpose of a case cart? Why do we build those? Let me see if I got a picture of one too. While y'all answering that. I see an A, to provide supply for multiple departments. All right, I'm gonna go back up, Chrisette. Because an exchange cart might be, but a case cart has a real specific purpose. All right. So the case cart is a specialized cart that contains all instruments and supplies needed for surgery, for a single surgery, based on the surgeon's preference card. Okay. So looking back at 19, the primary purpose of a case cart would be B, to contain all those instruments and supplies. I see you got it. All right. What happens to the unused items in a case cart after surgery? What do they do with that stuff? So not something that got opened, something that they never needed to use. Is it A, they are discarded, B, they are returned to sterile storage, C, they are given to other departments, or D, they are sent to the decontamination area? What do we do with unused items after a surgical case? I cannot believe, y'all know I keep saying that. I cannot believe we're almost done. We have like 3 chapters left. B, period. They get returned to sterile storage. If it's not used, it's not open, it's still in good condition, it gets returned to sterile storage. If those instruments have been opened and they weren't used, they go into decontam. They got to get cleaned and reprocessed just like they were bloody. And if they were bloody, they're definitely going back to decontam. Good job. Number 3, what of the following is a key impact of stat orders on inventory management? So what impact does stat orders have on inventory management? Is it A, they improve stock rotation, B, they disrupt the regular inventory flow, C, they eliminate the need for cycle counting, or D, none of the above? What y'all got, Tiki-Taki? If they call and tell you I need that inventory up here stat, what's one of the impacts? Is that B? They disrupt the regular inventory flow. Good job. They disrupt the regular inventory flow. Okay. And no, Chrisette, they don't eliminate the need for cycle counting. And the reason being because the cycle counting we were going to be doing on a periodic basis to make sure that we don't have discrepancies in the inventory. So somebody calling me stat is not going to change that. But somebody calling me stat for something that I hadn't already previously planned to give to them, means that my inventory is being disrupted. And that's fine. No, it's not a problem. We're going to give them what they need. We just got to make sure we have a process to keep that stuff stocked. Number 4, what does the term par level refer to in inventory management? Is a par level the minimum quantity of a supply to maintain an inventory? Is it B, a high-tech inventory tracking system? Is it C, the process of rotating stock? Or is it D, none of the above? What's a par level? And trust me, if you don't know it today, you will come to know it. You will come. Because ain't nothing worse than when somebody don't respect the par level. It's like when that person go and put that little swig of juice back in the refrigerator. Like, you gotta have a par level in the refrigerator of at least 1 cup. Don't put that bottle back in here if I can't fill the cup up. What's a par level? A, exactly. It is the minimum quantity of a supply to maintain in inventory. We always want to keep at least this many in the shelf for use. That's a par level. And then 5, which of the following inventory systems provides continuous monitoring of stock levels? Is it manual inventory systems, periodic inventory systems, perpetual inventory systems, or just-in-time systems? Which of the following inventory systems provides for continuous monitoring? I know we just looked at that today, and I think some of y'all are not here in the reading yet, so don't feel no pressure. These are just practice questions. I also want to make sure you had them, because like I said, I know some of y'all still catching up, so I want you to have this stuff to practice with. And don't forget to practice with the ones that your textbook comes with, that workbook, because it will absolutely help you guys get ready to answer these questions on the test. Okay? So looking at those inventory systems, what we got? And this is one of those ones I feel like is a good example of how understanding the vocabulary will help you answer this question, even if you didn't fully know what every single one of these systems are. Because the question was, which of the following inventory systems provides continuous monitoring of stock levels? And one of those stock systems is called perpetual. Continuous. So that's going to be C, perpetual inventory system. All right. So we are at time. I still have 20 to get through as far as what I have set up for you guys here. These notes are available on the website. If you haven't downloaded them yet, go ahead and check those out. When we come back on Wednesday, I'm going to do my best to get through 2 chapters. We'll be looking at chapter 20, which is over the role of the Central Service Tech in the SP department. And I'm hoping that won't take me too long. I would like to spend a little more time going over chapter 21 because I feel like that's going to really impact you guys once you get on the floor. But these last few chapters, like I said, are really just professional development. So we'll take a look at those as well. All right, yeah, go ahead and get those notes downloaded. There are, like I said, through 20 is up there. I'll get 21 and 22 up. Matter of fact, I'll try to do my best to get the last 4 chapters up there for y'all so that it's all there for you to go at your pace. And then, was it Letitia that came in late? Letitia, I know you came late, but I had dropped the link at the beginning of class. If you can scroll up in the chat to a Google form survey. If you have some time, if you could fill that out for me. I just wanted to get some feedback from you guys as students as far as how this pilot course went for you since we're almost done. And I'm putting together a PowerPoint presentation to pitch my business for some funding with the city and the Small Business Development Center. So I would like to utilize that information to help make my pitches as well. Last day, I don't really have it scheduled, Chris said, because sometimes I come in here like today. I came in here thinking we was gonna get through 19 and 20, but we only made it through 19. Um, so what I did was on the YouTube, I think I set up last week, I think I set up like 4 or 5 more. If we end up needing another one, then I'll add it. But in my mind, here's what I think in my mind. Like I said, but then we get here and it don't always go that way. Um, but Wednesday we will do chapter 20 and 21. That following Monday, which would be, I believe it's the 7th. Yeah, so Wednesday, April 2nd, we would be looking at 20 and 21. Monday, April 7th, we would be looking at 22 and 23. And then Wednesday, the 9th, we would be going over chapter 24. And then you guys have covered the content of the technical manual. And then my plan after that was to set up at least one more session with you all to do some like chapter review, some flashcard work, and call it a day. I do want to offer to you guys that have been doing the free, like the Heal Mentor class from the beginning, or even the folks that have jumped in, but you know what I mean, like the people that have been coming consistently to class. I did want to offer y'all some gift certificates to do some one-on-one sessions. If you need them, like if you guys need help with reviewing your resumes or finding places to do your externship, if you need help, practice, maybe you want somebody to give you practice questions or something, interview help, whatever you need. I wanted to offer you guys some gift certificates so that you can have those and utilize those if you need them. And then that's it. We did it. We offered a free sterile processing course. I do believe the first of its kind to the industry. And I appreciate y'all for being with me and doing that. And definitely in honor of Juan Candray, I especially appreciate y'all being a part of that experience because I try not to talk about him too much because I start crying. But Juan Candray was a supervisor of mine when I was a manager working at Kaiser from 2013 to like 2016, I think. And I started there as a overnight travel tech, and Juan convinced me to apply for the manager position when he learned that I was a supervisor before that. And he was pretty consistent. I blew him off for a long time because I was like, I don't know, this place is a little crazy. But he put the nursing director on my case, and he and her both come on. So finally, I accepted that role as my first management position with Kaiser at their flagship hospital, and that started my management career. And that year alone, when I left Carbondale as a certified registered technician, I was a supervisor. I was making $11.50. When I went to California to become a travel tech, I was technically making $18 an hour, but with my travel stipends, I was taking home about $2,000 a week. When I officially stepped into that manager position, I became the first person in my family to ever make over 6 figures. So I will always be indebted to him for pushing me to take that step. And we worked together for a number of years until he passed away from pancreatic cancer. And I'll tell you, the last time that I saw Juan, he had just had a Whipple surgery. So this is another reason why not only do I teach this stuff, but I belabor the fact that I want you guys to pay attention to the detail of your work. You will meet people in the SPD industry, just like everywhere else, that don't care about their jobs. I'm not one of those people. Juan was not one of those people. So when I thought about what qualities I wanted technicians that graduated from this course to represent, I named it after him for that very reason. I have no expectation that anybody that has gone through several weeks of education with me will not be taking this field seriously. He took his job extremely seriously. He always knew what the surgeons needed, and he took care of that department like nobody's business. And we never know when we will be affected by surgery. We never know when we might have to have surgery. Juan was one of the fittest men I have ever known. He was so serious about his health. He couldn't foresee that he was going to have pancreatic cancer. He couldn't foresee that he was going to have a Whipple surgery. And luckily, our department had everything that he needed. Everything was clean. He didn't have no complications from his surgery. But just imagine how much extra fear there is for a person like that, that is used to being healthy, is dealing with cancer, and now have to go in for surgery. I'm stressed beyond stress. My body is stressed beyond stress. One mistake from us, one dirty instrument from us could cost somebody their life. Or, in my opinion, even worse, could cause somebody to have repeat surgeries, have to come back and have infection removed or have limbs removed. So, what we do, even though it will become monotonous because you're doing it every single day, it is so critical. And the last time I seen him, I came in his room. He was sitting in there with his wife and his daughter. And I came in and I'm like, how one? I'm looking at my friend, and my friend does not look anything like how my friend has always looked. He wasn't his thick, robust self. He had worn down with cancer. And he looked at me and he said, Miss Alessandra, did they have everything that they needed today? Talking about the OR. I said, I know the I know this man ain't just asked me no work question. He just got out of a Whipple surgery. Don't worry about whether or not my surgeons have what they need. We're going to take care of that. I'm here to take care of you. Okay. That was one of the last conversations we had before he passed. And when I talked to Juan that day, when I came in, I leaned in, we cried because we knew that it wasn't looking good. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer is almost always a death sentence. And he fought. He really did, but we knew. And so I told him, I'm like, we're not going to forget. No. We will not be forgetting the contributions that you made. So that's why I put it together. And so for y'all to be a part of the launch has just really meant a tremendous amount to me. And I hope that y'all use it. I really do hope that you guys take your CRCST exams and start new careers for yourself. Nothing would please either one of us more, I know. Letitia said, I've had to have surgery, and not knowing how important it is for the instruments used on me scares me now. Right? Right? It's a kind of, like it's one of those things, like it's kind of nice to not know that there's people behind the scenes. One of the things we talk about when I worked in the field a lot was, if you had to have surgery, where would you go? Would you choose to go to a sterile processing department where you don't know nobody and you don't know what they do? Or would you want to have your surgery at your home facility? And it was something, we would talk about, but the reality is you might not get that choice. We were out, my processing team, when I worked for the Process podcast, we went to Nashville, I believe it was, for a conference. And one of the team members that we was with had to have an angiogram while we were there. He went into a cardiac emergency at the hotel. We rushed, got him to the hospital, and they took him in for emergency surgery. He didn't get to pick his team. And when we went downstairs, because we were there for a sterile processing conference, so when he was finished with surgery, I went to meet the SPD team, and we went to talk to them. And I told them, first and foremost, thank you. And also, thanks. I know that y'all know that I know that somebody up in here don't be on their P's and Q's all the time. And this is why it's critical for y'all to always be willing to speak up for safety, because you never know. I told him that day, I said, we don't know. He might be perfectly fine. He might have an infection tomorrow. I don't know who trade he got. But I know if I ask each one of y'all, if y'all know somebody in here that y'all would want to do y'all trade and you wouldn't want nobody else to do them. I want you to be that tech. I want you to be the tech that everybody knows. If Letitia touched it, it's good. We got to worry about them. And it's not to say that you won't make mistakes. I don't want y'all to be afraid of that either. You're human. You're going to make mistakes. But the attitude that you bring to it from the outset is going to make or break whether or not people look at you as a solid technisian or people look at you as somebody that can just feel the shift, that can get by till so-and-so get here. Okay? Right? You guys got to be on top of it. So, especially if you're going to be running out there and behind my name, please, and behind Juan's name, please, don't embarrass me in front of my friend. But no, really, seriously, I don't want to hold y'all, but I do thank you. And if you get the chance to fill out that survey, I greatly appreciate it. If you don't want to fill it out, please don't feel like you have to. Or if there are questions on there that you don't want to answer, don't feel like you have to answer it. Like I said, I'm just trying to get a feedback for how the class went for you, what type of stuff I can change or make better. And specifically, when I make the business pitch to the investors, I want to be able to demonstrate to them that there was value here. If there was value here, I don't want to make anything up. So, in my eyes, I think it is something that is worth them investing in and being able to offer this class to other people. Because my thing with it, especially with doing it for free, I know I can't do that. I can't sustain that. I can't do for free all the time. This is labor. This is work. And I have to I got to pay bills too. But if there are ways that I can have the investors help to support, whether it's through grant funding or connecting me with some workforce development programs so that I could continue to offer it at a low or at no cost to the students, because I think that's also important. When I learned SPD, they hired me, they trained me on the job. I bought the books and that's it. Because I was on the floor, I took the test myself, and that was my entry into the field. So for less than $300, I was able to take my career from $725 an hour to over 122K. I think that's important. People need opportunities to step out and make real money for themselves without necessarily going broke. And I've seen SPD classes that are $15,000, $20,000 where people are going and getting student loans and all this stuff to take this class. So not saying it's not valuable, but I don't want to put nobody in the hole. My goal is to help. So if you found it helpful, I appreciate you filling that out. All right. And then otherwise, I will see y'all on Monday. Like I said, I think we have, if depending on how we get through these last couple of chapters, I would say we probably have about 4 or 5 sessions left together, ladies, and then we'll say adieu. Thank y'all very much. I will see you on Wednesday at 4:45. And my folks on TikTok, if you're interested in joining them, links are in the bio. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page.